Pakistan Army still fighting the Taliban. From a forward base in the bare brown foothills of soaring mountains of South Waziristan, Pakistani soldiers fired artillery at insurgents sheltering scrub across the valley. Smoke blotted the sky as the soldiers set ablaze houses once used by the Taliban to hide caches of heavy weapons. In the Makin Bazaar, where the former leader of the Pakistani militants, Masood, was once king, the army has flattened the jerry-built stores, including the ice cream parlor, scotching any idea of an easy return. Here, in the heartland of the Pakistani Taliban, the army has fought for 5 months to take back territory from its indigenous enemy. A rare trip under military escort revealed that the battle had turned into a grinding test of wheels with no neat resolution in sight. Pakistani army has, at least for the moment, gained the upper hand by taking the war to the Taliban in these barren mountains, rather than retreating behind successive peace deals as it once did. But it is not claiming victory. Terrorists are nowhere and everywhere, said a lieutenant colonel as he looked out on a landscape devoid of people, crops, animals, or any sign of normal life. This is a strange kind of warfare. We can't say the area is completely sanitized. We are hunting them, killing them. Mr. Masood and his men, allies of Al-Qaeda, used this area over the past few years to attack Pakistani cities, military installations, with a ferocious onslaught of suicide bombings and commando raids. And yes, still, suicide bombings and raids are still going on, almost daily. Most have now fled to North Waziristan, or to other parts of tribal areas, and to Pakistan cities, leaving behind small bands of dedicated guerrillas. They continue to inflict casualties on the army with ambushes, sniper fire, in a region where the British tribe failed to subdue the tribes during their colonial rule. The United States, a long-distance participant and a keen cheerleader in the current Pakistani campaign, killed Mr. Masood in a drone strike in August and appears to have killed his successor in another drone attack in January. But the suicide attacks continue. As evident, the bombings that killed more than 40 people in Lahore on Friday. Washington has sent extra artillery, helicopters, body armor, radio sets, even surveillance drones to help Pakistan's ground war. During a recent visit, Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton pledged $55 million to upgrade roads in the area. In return, the Obama administration would like the Pakistani military to pursue a full-scale offensive in North Waziristan against the Afghan Taliban, who used the area to launch operations against American NATO forces in Afghanistan, and who serve as Pakistan's proxies against Indian interests there. Yes, that is also a problem. So far, Chief of the Pakistani Army, General Kayani, has made clear that India remains Pakistan's prime enemy, despite the persistent insurgent threat that the army has its hands full with the South Waziristan campaign. It is a fight that is nuclear-armed military, which is trained for conventional warfare against Indian forces on the plains of Punjab, has been forced to adapt to strange ways. And that also is a very serious problem. Each night, squads of soldiers have to travel the roads, trails, looking for bombs. The trails need upkeep. The roads are subject to attacks. And now that the snow has melted, pink flowers are blooming, lending a surprising softness to the harsh landscape of dry riverbeds and gravel tracks. The Army says it will ask civilians who were ordered to leave last fall to return to their villages. The return of the people, many of them marooned in camps northwest frontier province, will probably prove the hardest part of the operation. First, many militants or insurgents are expected to drift back among civilians. In other words, it is very hard to tell who the enemy really is. Second, the military will remain in South Waziristan for perhaps the next 18 months or so, the Army says. But neither the Army nor the national civilian government has done much preparation for fixing the broken system of indirect rule in the tribal areas that has failed over the last 60 years to deliver development. Much of the rebellion of the Pakistani Taliban was fueled by anger at the corruption of tribal leaders who pocketed government money intended for economic development, said a retired Army officer. I told General Kayani that half the teachers in my village are sitting in Dubai or Karachi, not in the schools, he said. This was because, under a time-honored practice in the tribal areas, teachers' salaries were not paid to teachers, but to tribal leaders who in turn split the money between the relatives and a government bureaucrat, he said. In other words, corruption. Some residents have expressed hesitation about returning while the military remains. We're being asked to go back, but we will only go back when the military leaves, said an engineering student. The military stays in South Waziristan. Pakistani civilians will again be subject to attacks by the Taliban, who are not yet defeated. Soldiers, he said, will become targets of the Taliban or the militants, and again the people will be caught in between. But most galling was the destruction of family property during the fighting, including at least 200 houses in just one area. So far, there had been no offers of compensation for all that was lost. So, this war, this campaign goes on. How much longer will it take? At what cost? What will be the conclusion? This is a very complicated situation. And again, Mark chapter 13, verse 8. The nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be earthquakes in diverse places. There shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. There's something much more going on here. And everything is connected. Everything that must change rapidly or quickly. These are more signs. The end times transition days. Yes, transition is a process happening daily all around the world. These are more signs.